Hello everybody, welcome to Code Train. This is another a video in our bootcamp series on programming for teachers, and we're going to start talking about using images. So what I have here is a p5.js file that already has an image shown on the screen. So I want to walk you through this code so you understand how it works a little bit. Talk about a couple different ways you can load this image into your program, because we need to know where we're going to find this image. And then I'm going to kind of walk you through the entire process one time on its own as well. I'll show you a few little bits of code. So first of all, once you have an image, it takes 3 lines of code in order for that image to be drawn. The first line of code is you have to set up a variable that's going to store that image. So I've created a variable called gorilla because I like my names of my gorillas or my pictures to make reference to it. So in fact, it might even want to call this gorilla pick, because I could easily envision myself wanting to have different variables that relate to this if this was a game or something like that. So then what I do is I say, okay, I'm going to go into setup and I'm going to load image. So load image is the way you create an image if that image is saved within the p5.js editor, which I'll show you how to do a little bit later on. So what that means is, if you wanted to create an image, you have it saved already on your computer, for example, you're going to upload it into p5.js, this is what you do. And I'll show you that process, but I'm also going to show you the alternative here in just a minute. And that alternative is, what if you want to just point to an image that's already on the web somewhere because maybe you're using a Chromebook, you don't have full save rights or who knows what. So, but let's look at that line of code again. So var sets up the variable just like it did any other variable. Then we say, I'm going to take gorilla pick and make it equal to its load image. Go find this picture. In this case, it's images / well, again, I'll show you that here in just a couple minutes. And that loads the picture, but it doesn't actually draw the image. So here in draw is the line of code that draws the image. So of course I have to change this to gorilla pick again. And what it does is it draws it at first. I'm going to show you just with 2 numbers here, 30, 30, at a location. So if I hit play, what it'll do is it'll draw that at 30 pixels over, 30 pixels down, but you'll notice it's massive, and so all you see is Donkey Kong's shoulder here. And so the first 2 numbers, kind of like with a rectangle, are the location, and the second 2, kind of like with a rectangle, are the size. So if I wanted to make this guy, say 100 pixels by 100 pixels, I just add an extra set of variables, and then you can see I've got my gorilla. Now, let me show you the process, though. What would happen if you wanted to reference a file that's not preloaded? Again, I'm going to show you how to preload that in a second, but quite often many of you are going to want to have students reference images straight from the internet. And it uses 1 line. It doesn't actually use load image. It uses something called create image, which I'm just going to show you in a second. So first of all, I've gone and I've searched for Mario on my thing. Now, I don't know if you noticed, it was kind of annoying when I had this on here. If I make this guy a little bit bigger, you'll notice it's got this gray checkerboard background. That's not really what I wanted. I want to actually have a transparent image, so I want to show you that that's doable here. Quite often when you work with Google image searches, many of you will know that that quite often transparent backgrounds are shown with this gray, but many of them actually don't turn out that way. So one of the things you can do in the Google image search is if you click Tools here, once you've done your search, there is a color setting, and you can actually go back and say, I only want ones that have the transparent color, and therefore it makes sure that hopefully that will work. So let's say I want this one now, and I want to be able to use this. So I want to use this using its URL or its web address instead. So I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to say copy link address. Sorry, that's not right. I want copy image address. Actually, that's very important. Copy image address. Mac's terminology is just slightly different, but make sure it's the address of the image itself. Copy image address. So that'll save that copied into my clipboard. Now what I do is I go over to my editor and I'm ready to go. So now I'm going to create a var called Mario Pick. I'm going to do something with Mario Pick. In this case, if you're doing it off the internet, you're not doing load image. It's called create image, IMG. And then you write, oh, that massive URL. Really? I'll have to try to get a better URL than that. In fact, I'm going to undo that because that's not very effective, is it? So let's go back to this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually go in and link into that image itself. And now here, let's see if I can see if that gets me a better URL when I right click it now. Now hopefully I've got a website that allows for saving. Oh, of course now I'm into a long my web browser is slowed up on me. Sorry about that. Let me pause this till I get it ready to go. Okay, it turns out that website I was on wouldn't allow me to right click, so I'm going to do a slightly different process. So I just picked a different one here. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to say open link in open image in new tab. And what open image in new tab will do is it'll create just a smaller URL that I can copy, or I can right click copy it, or I can just now copy that like that. So hopefully this works here for you. Now I'll go back to here and create image, and that's quite a bit shorter, like there. And finally then down here I can draw my image again, and we'll see if that image worked properly for me. I'll put it a little bit lower down, maybe at the 200. And again, I'll just leave it as default setting just to start with, and we'll hit play. And oh, there it is. He's way down here. He's massive. Holy smokes, that's a big image. So I better make that quite a bit smaller. I wasn't expecting him to be that big, and I'll just randomly put in a size there. And there he is. So now you can see that load image. It loads if you have it pre-saved and then load it into the editor, or if you want to go straight from a URL, that's sort of the how you put it. You just have to get that image right. Now let me show, and notice that the transparent background is gone. That's just because of that transparent search. So let me show you how you'd upload this. To create images, maybe you have pre-stored, or you want to do a photograph you've taken, something like that. So what you do here is on the left side of your screen, there's this little arrow that if you click over, it opens up this little submenu and all the different files. And there is an images folder. Now right now I've got Donkey Kong in there. This pre-exists, so all you have to do is hit this little down arrow here and say upload file, and you can upload any image you've pre-saved. Once you've done that, then you can use the load image line. So the load image line is for anything that you've uploaded this way. So again, here's this little collapse. Then this images folder, you just hit this down triangle here, which would say upload file, allows you to upload, and away you go. And you notice you can rename and things like that. If you wanted to rename anything, you can do that by renaming and things like that. Okay, let me go back to my sketch. There we go. And that is your basic images. Oh, I want to show you one more thing though. Remember that anything you do with these images can be altered with variables. You can make things transparent. You can do all kinds of things. I've got some really good examples in my processing. It uses a slightly different saving mechanism because you actually have to create what's called a data folder to save your images in processing. And then the variable type is called p-image. Remember that in processing, if you watch my variables video, you have to have a particular variable type, and so the variable type for pictures is called a P image, capital P, capital I image. Otherwise, the code is the same. Load image. Create image isn't really applicable. Load image works using a data folder. I got two really cool examples you should go check out if you're using my processing stuff. One is called it's called something about light bulb, where you flip light bulbs on or on, so it swaps between two images really quickly. And the second one is called skull, which is kind of a little political thing. I often pick I get this class to pick a politician. I save a picture of a politician. I save a picture of a skull, and what I do is I use clicks to make the transparency of the politician disappear as slowly as they click, and then the skull transitions through. Just something silly we have fun with, and I make it kind of apolitical and make some jokes around the political side of it, just because it's kind of a neat little example. So I do encourage you to check that out. But one thing before I do that is remind you that you can do anything you want with this. So maybe I decided I want Mario to be controllable by a keyboard, so I'm going to put a variable called Mario X, which is why I wanted Mario pick. Maybe I'll set him where he is right now, which is about 200. I will make this location then to be Mario X. And I'll add my key press function. I'm just going to pause just to and type it all in so you can see it afterwards. First of all, let me run this and make sure I haven't broken it. Yep, he's still there. Good. Oh, that's interesting. I've got a much bigger image from before. I'll have to figure out what's going on there. So it must not have refreshed this part of the screen when I ran it. That's kind of cool. Okay, and so let me pause this for a second. All right, so I've added a if statement. I also noticed there's a little error. You might have caught that. I'll talk about it here in just a second. So I've added a key press function. I've just said if key equals A or D, so A is WD keys, kind of traditional. Mario X minus equals 5, or plus equals 5 for D. So if I hit play and I click on there and just use my A key, you can see I can now make Mario go back and forth. Now Mario doesn't turn around when I press D. There actually is something you can do to transform your image and flip it as well, but we're not that. I'll save that for you to look up on your own. So there you go. You got your little basics, and of course variables can be used for anything, of course. So we could actually have variables working with sizes and all kinds of different things. So there we go. The one thing is, you notice it talks about this image, this error down here. It says expecting at least 2 arguments for create image, but it actually allowed me to run with this. Essentially, I just looked up on the side because I actually wasn't aware that what it actually wants to have, or is hoping to have, is some alternate text in case the image can't be found. So you could write image not found or whatever in there, and it gives you your alternative text is basically what that does. And now I think that error message will disappear. Yeah. So that's only needed for create image, only used for create image. Just because it may be that this URL is no longer valid anymore. Is basically the idea. All right, so there is your crash course in images. Again, I encourage you to look at the processing version because I got some really cool examples on working with them. And of course, all of the big projects that my students have created use images. So there's lots of really neat examples within there as well. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.